Imagine you're standing on the west side of Portland. It's 7 in the morning. The bridges are backed up the way they always are. Commuters, delivery trucks, school buses. 12 bridges spanning the Willamette River, connecting the two halves of a city of 650,000 people. And then the ground moves. Not a tremor, not a warning rumble. A full megathrust rupture from a fault that runs 700 miles along the Pacific Ocean floor. The shaking lasts 5 to 7 minutes, and when it stops, every one of those 12 bridges is gone. That's not a hypothetical. That is the scenario that Oregon emergency managers, FEMA, and the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management have been studying for years. The city doesn't get cut off when the earthquake comes. It gets cut in half. And what I'm going to show you today is that the bridges failing is only one part of the problem. The deeper problem, the one nobody put on the warning signs, is what's already standing on both sides of that river right now. I want you to hold on to one number as we go through this. 14 minutes. I'll tell you what it means before we're done. The Cascadia Subduction Zone is a 700-mile fault system sitting offshore from Northern California all the way up to Vancouver Island, British Columbia. It is the boundary where the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate is slowly grinding beneath the North American plate, moving east at roughly 4 centimeters a year, building pressure at a rate that has no release valve. According to the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, at depths shallower than 30 kilometers, the two plates are locked together by friction. Every year that passes without a rupture is another year of accumulated strain. The last time this fault fully let go was January 26, 1700. Scientists know the date precisely, not from any American record, because there were no written American records that far back on this coastline. They know it from Japanese historical archives that documented a 16-foot tsunami hitting the Honshu coast that same night across the Pacific. The Oregon coast dropped several feet in seconds. Coastal forests drowned, and then nothing. For 325 years, the fault has been quiet. That silence is not reassurance. According to geologic evidence, the Cascadia Subduction Zone produces a great earthquake roughly every 400 to 600 years, sometimes as frequently as every 200. We are in the window. According to Oregon's Department of Emergency Management, there is currently a 37% probability of a magnitude 7.1 or greater megathrust earthquake striking within the next 50 years. That is not a remote risk. That is closer to a coin flip than most people realize. When it happens, the Oregon DEM projects shaking lasting between 5 and 7 minutes. For comparison, the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, the one that collapsed a city, lasted less than 60 seconds. The Cascadia event, at full rupture along its entire length, would release 1,000 times more energy than a magnitude 7.0. FEMA has estimated that a magnitude 9.0 Cascadia earthquake could cause up to 25,000 fatalities across Oregon and Washington and displace more than 1 million people. The economic losses, according to FEMA's own regional projections, would exceed $30 billion. That's the large number. But Portland has a specific problem that those regional numbers don't fully capture. 12 bridges cross the Willamette River in Portland. Not one of them would survive a major Cascadia earthquake in functional condition. That's not this channel's analysis. That is the conclusion of the engineers and emergency planners who have been studying this problem for years. As reported by Portland State Magazine and confirmed by Multnomah County's own bridge project documentation, none of Portland's bridges open to vehicular traffic that span the Willamette River are expected to remain functional after a full Cascadia rupture. 10 of those 12 bridges were built before 1994. The Burnside Bridge, one of the city's most used crossings, carrying more than 40,000 vehicles a day, was completed in 1926. According to government reporting, the Burnside is expected to experience extensive damage in a major quake, and because 2/3 of the structure sits over land, it could collapse in a way that blocks not just the crossing, but the adjoining roadways and ship traffic through the river corridor. Let that settle for a moment, because the number alone doesn't tell you what it means operationally. Portland sits along the Willamette. East Portland and West Portland are not suburb and city center. They are two functional halves of a single urban system: hospitals, fire stations, warehouses, fuel supply routes, the people who would need rescue, and the people who would do the rescuing. When the bridges fail, there is no crossing. Emergency responders on the West Bank cannot reach the east. Fuel depots, groceries, medical supplies, everything that requires a truck stops. The Oregon Department of Emergency Management has specifically stated that coastal communities will become isolated into what they call islands due to landslides, liquefaction, and bridge damage following a Cascadia event. That language, islands, was written about the coast. Portland is inland, but the same principle applies to any city that depends on bridges to function as a single unit. And Portland is exactly that city. The one partial exception is the Burnside Corridor. Emergency planners have designated it a priority emergency lifeline route, which is why Multnomah County has committed to replacing the Burnside Bridge with an earthquake-ready structure. The project is expected to begin full construction in 2027. It will close the bridge for approximately 5 years. The current cost estimate runs as high as $895 million. And until that bridge is replaced, until 2027 at the earliest, more likely 2032, Portland has 0 earthquake-ready crossings of its own main river. If you live in Portland or anywhere in the greater metro area, drop a comment below and tell us, did you know your bridges weren't rated for a Cascadia event? And if you've thought about what that means for your neighborhood, tell us that too. This community takes local knowledge seriously, and what people on the ground notice matters. While you're there, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video in this series. Because what we're covering next is just as specific and just as local. In May of 2025, the journal Seismica published research from a University of Washington team that changed how scientists think about the offshore structure of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. The study used deep penetrating seismic imaging, a kind of geological ultrasound of the ocean floor, to search for a feature called a megasplay fault. This is a secondary fault structure, branching upward from the main subduction zone and located closer to the coastline. At other subduction zones worldwide, megasplay faults have a specific and alarming effect. When they rupture during a great earthquake, they raise the seafloor, displacing a massive column of water much closer to shore, generating tsunamis that are both larger and faster arriving. The previous Cascadia disaster modeling, the models that emergency planners were actively using, assumed a continuous megasplay fault running the full 600-mile length of the zone. What the University of Washington researchers found was that no such continuous fault exists. The team found evidence of a megasplay segment off the tip of the Olympic Peninsula and another along the southern Washington and northern Oregon coasts, but no through-going fault spanning the whole system. According to the lead researchers, the structure is segmented, variable, and inconsistent. What this means for tsunami modeling is still being worked out. Where the megasplay segment does exist off southern Washington and northern Oregon, directly offshore from Portland's coastline, tsunamis could still arrive faster and larger than older models predicted for those sections. The emergency plans currently in use in the Pacific Northwest are based on a model that no longer matches the new data. Planners know this. The revisions have not yet been fully incorporated. There is a gap between what the science now says and what the evacuation signs on the Oregon coast still show. That's not alarmism. That is the direct statement of the researchers who published the Seismica paper. The earlier assumption of one long megasplay fault is currently built into emergency plans used by coastal communities in the Pacific Northwest. Now I want to talk about what's on both sides of the river before the bridges go. Because the bridge failure is the rupture event, the thing that happens in 5 to 7 minutes and then stays broken for months or years. What concerns emergency planners over the longer term is what those bridges were connected to, a city with a pre-existing structural vulnerability that was identified, studied, argued over in city council chambers, and then quietly set aside. According to Portland's Bureau of Development Services, there are more than 1,600 unreinforced masonry buildings in the city. These are structures built primarily in the late 1800s through the 1960s, brick, stone, hollow concrete block, erected in an era when Pacific Northwest seismic risk was not yet understood, before building codes required any seismic design at all. What engineers know about unreinforced masonry in earthquakes is specific and consistent. When a building of this type experiences lateral shaking, the roof and floor framing can pull free from the walls. The walls then collapse outward. The technical term for what happens to the occupants inside is pancake failure. According to reporting from Axios in 2024, roughly 1,300 of those 1,600 buildings have received no seismic retrofitting. Over 60 high-occupancy structures, churches, school district facilities, community centers, have undergone no upgrades at all. Portland City Council passed a resolution in 2018 directing work toward a mandatory retrofit program. By 2019, a mandatory placarding ordinance requiring building owners to post warning signs was passed and then challenged in court, with a federal judge ruling it illegal. By 2020, the push for mandatory retrofitting had effectively stalled. As of the most recent reporting, there is no enforceable mandatory retrofit requirement for private unreinforced masonry buildings in the city of Portland. For comparison, San Francisco and other California cities began mandating seismic upgrades of these structures in 1986. Research on California's voluntary programs, the alternative to mandates, showed they achieved only 19% compliance. Portland currently has no mandate and no ongoing enforcement mechanism. The database of vulnerable buildings was briefly published online, then taken down after building owners objected that it devalued their property. There's one thing I haven't explained yet, and everything else in this video was building toward it. The Portland Bureau of Emergency Management has stated plainly that following a Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake, Portland residents should expect to be self-sufficient for a minimum of 2 weeks. Not hours, not 2 or 3 days. 2 weeks minimum before reliable outside assistance reaches the city. That is the official projection. 2 weeks without functioning bridges. 2 weeks with an unknown percentage of downtown buildings damaged or collapsed. 2 weeks of emergency responders trying to operate in a city that has been divided by its river into 2 disconnected zones. 2 weeks for anyone who lives in an unreinforced masonry building and survived the initial collapse, trying to understand where help is coming from. Now, the 14 minutes. According to NOAA's Cascadia education materials, tsunami waves can reach portions of the Oregon coast within approximately 14 to 15 minutes of a full Cascadia rupture. That is the window between the shaking stopping and the water arriving for coastal residents. 14 minutes to reach high ground. For Portland, which is inland, the tsunami threat is reduced. The concern there is ground shaking and secondary fires and infrastructure collapse. But for the 600,000 people who live in Oregon's coastal counties, including communities in Clatsop, Lincoln, and Tillamook, 14 minutes is not a planning abstraction. It is a hard, physical fact, and the evacuation maps they are currently using are based in part on the old megasplay fault model that the 2025 Seismica research has now revised. The distance between what the science says and what the signs on the wall say is not zero. And in a region where the fault has been locked and building pressure for 325 years, that gap is not academic. What the data describes, taken together, is not a city that doesn't know it's at risk. Portland knows. Oregon DEM knows. Multnomah County knows. They're spending nearly $1 billion on one bridge replacement to prove it. What the data describes is a city that has been moving in the right direction at a speed that does not match the probability timeline, in a place where the ground has a 37% chance of moving first. The Burnside Bridge project is real. The seismic science is real. The building vulnerability reports are real and publicly documented. The self-sufficiency projection, 2 weeks, no outside help, is official city guidance. None of this is hidden. All of it is findable in public records, county engineering reports, and FEMA regional planning documents. What has been slow is the translation from knowing to doing. And the fault offshore doesn't wait for that translation to finish. 325 years of pressure. And the only exit routes across the river were built before